Good evening and welcome to the Common Council meeting for December 11th, 2012. Clerk will call the roll, please.
Hanson.
Present.
Jarvis. Sedlacek. Markham.
Here.
Williams.
Here.
Riley.
Present.
Fowler.
Here.
Anderson.
Present.
Let the record show we have a quorum for Common Council meeting. Next item is the pledge. Please stand. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's council meeting. Next item on the agenda is you approve the list of items for consideration on the consent agenda. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved, Alder Anderson. Second, Alder Markham.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'm wondering
Alderman Fowler.
why we have party that goes for 6 hours.
Excuse me, which item are you talking about?
B. Item B, the Christmas party for the fire retardant, 6 p.m. to 12 midnight. I mean, if there's alcohol served, are they all sober when they leave?
So you're requesting to have that removed from the consent agenda?
Yeah, I think we should talk about it.
I would ask, Chief, it's,
We have to,
excuse me,
Talked about under nine.
right. So, is that a motion to remove,
Doesn't need
Doesn't
to
need
be
to
a
be a
motion, just a request to remove.
just a request to move it down to item 9?
Correct.
And which item you want, all of, that was what I was getting at, all of B or first part or second part? It's gotta be all of it. All of 8B to move down to 9,
Yeah,
correct?
yes.
Any other items? Clerk will call the roll.
Anderson.
No.
Riley.
No.
Are we voting on just
We're approving,
Taking it out?
No, we don't have to approve taking out that item.
we're
This would
approving
be-
the consent agenda,
The rest of it?
the rest
Right,
of
right.
it.
Okay.
Let's,
I didn't
let's
wanna
start
take
over.
that out.
Yeah, it's just, this is approving the motion by Anderson and Markham to, okay. Anderson.
Yes.
Riley.
Yes.
Markham.
Yes.
Jarvis. Fowler.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Now, moving on, item 4. This is the audience portion where the audience is recognized by the chair presiding officer. This is where you get to talk and we get to listen. And tonight, Bill Immig has signed up. Bill?
First of all, I just want to remind people to shovel their sidewalks even when there's just an inch or two. It does freeze and gets icy and slippery, and so people get out there and shovel your sidewalks, and just a little reminder. The other thing I remind everyone is that with the contract with Veolia ending December 31st, January 1st, a new contract with Veolia begins where there is no bulky pickup. So if you have a bulky item such as a mattress or a table or chair, some carpeting, that plastic swimming pool in your garage you want to get rid of, or that little plastic car for your kid, this is the time to get rid of it. You have till the end of the month to set it on the curb and it'll go away. We had a meeting earlier with the Public Works Utilities Committee. We really haven't decided what direction we're going to be going. Some things being discussed were just doing nothing, that the person has to dispose of it on their own, maybe driving a Sheboygan to take it to a transfer station. Another thing that was discussed was having a drop-off twice a year down at the city garage. That the person might have to pay a fee to drop things off at. So chances are that there may be a fee involved in the coming year. So you have the next 3 weeks to dispose of those items. So just a reminder of that, and beginning in January, everything needs to be in a clear bag or a see-through white bag, a opaque kind of bag. They will take 10 33-gallon bags per week, and then your recycling goes in the blue bags, and your cardboard can be bundled. The recycling is staying exactly the same as it always has been. One item I've been tossing around in my mind is, what are you gonna do with the big Christmas wreath when Christmas is over and it's got that big metal ring? So I talked to Veolia, you can set those out, they will take those, they're not gonna be a bulky item. And Christmas trees, the city will continue to pick up. So Christmas trees and Christmas wreaths you can put out. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Moving on, item 5, proclamation recognizing Robert Yuck, Department of Public Works. I don't see Robert here tonight.
Robert, we invited Robert.
Okay. For the benefit of Robert,
I'll read.
Clerk Huberty, why don't we read the proclamation? I think that'd be
Sure.
a good idea.
Whereas Robert Yock has been a longstanding valued member of the community of Plymouth, Wisconsin, and the City Department of Public Works, whereas Bob has worked for the City of Plymouth since January 20th, 1969, maintaining streets, grading roads, plowing snow, and caring for city facilities and infrastructure, providing 44 years of continued service. Whereas Bob has served the City of Plymouth faithfully and diligently, making the City of Plymouth a safer and better place for all its residents. Whereas the City of Plymouth wishes to show its appreciation for the commitment and hard work Bob has provided to the community. Now therefore, Donald O. Pullman, Mayor, on behalf of the Plymouth Common Council and all residents of the city, do hereby wish to recognize the years of dedicated service Robert Yock has given to the city, and thank him on behalf of the entire community.
Thank you. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the proclamation as read.
So moved, Alder Anderson.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On behalf of the council, Robert, thank you very much.
I'll make sure Bob gets that. You know, I've had a number of people retire from the Public Works Department, but nobody's come near the 44 years Bob has put in. And when you think, 44 years, there's a number of people up here that were not born 44 years ago. I know I was still in high school, and some of you were still in the prime of your careers, so we do thank Bob. He was our grader operator, and we're gonna miss Bob's running the grader. We're kinda trying to figure out who's gonna be doing that in the coming years, so. And Bob is the kind of guy who made sure he didn't want anything. He kinda asked me like, what's going on with this? And I said, why don't you come? And I was hoping he would, but Bob's not here, so we'll get it to Bob. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bill. With the approval of the council, the chair would like to rearrange the agenda order, moving 13D as the next item on the agenda. The gentleman is here tonight, and if we could accommodate him, I think it'd be appreciated. With no objection, 13D only.
The street use permit.
No objection? Therefore, next item is discussion and approval of application for a street use permit from Elkhart Lake Multi-Sports Incorporated, Jeff Grady, to hold the Plymouth Criterium Bike Race on Saturday, May 25th, 2013, from 7:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., and close Kylie Way from Carr Road west to Pleasant View Road. Administrator Yurgis, you want to give us a summary on that, please?
Yeah, in the, there's an application in the packet. I'll refer to the map figure or the course figure, which is showing part of Kylie Way. Essentially, the discussion is to close where the X's are, those intersections down, and have a closed circuit bike race around those corners and around. There'd be a continuous circuit. I believe there's several levels that'll race throughout the day. The Public Works Director and the Police Chief have signed off on the request. I will note that as part of the request, there would be required police patrol, which is estimated at a cost of approximately $805. That cost would be passed on to the applicant, and the applicant is willing to pay the overtime cost for the extra police staffing during that event. So, Chief's here as well. Questions for any city staff related to the request. And then Mr. Grady is here as well if you wanted to ask him any questions.
Chair would entertain a motion with the stipulation of the $805 payment of police overtime.
Estimated.
Estimated, thank you.
So move, Alder Anderson. Second, Alder Markham.
We have a first and a second discussion, questions. Alderman Fowler.
Isn't there a cost related to moving street barriers and stuff?
Bill?
There will be, yes.
Have we charged for that in the past?
Historically, we haven't charged for that. It has been, other entities have received street use permits, and have paid that fee, and we've put barricades out, and we haven't charged those entities. So I guess that's why there isn't a fee proposed, because historically the Common Council hasn't levied a fee. For instance, the Arts Center would be one organization that routinely requests barricades, and we haven't charged for that. So that's why there isn't a proposal to pass that cost on.
But the Arts Center is a nonprofit. I believe this is a profit company. And you're asking, we can work. They're gonna get paid, right?
Chief?
Mr. Grady and I had conversation as part of the planning process, and he informed me we were talking about barricades and such. I believe he has at least 200 of his own traffic cones that he plans on using and some other devices. He can maybe better answer that question.
Mr. Grady, you want to address some of the thoughts and concerns, please?
Certainly. I understand what you're saying, and, we could look at rental of equipment. We would stage all the equipment. It would be a matter of the Works Department depositing it. We could discuss where, maybe on the side of the road on Friday, and we would be responsible for erecting that. Barricades, if they're, I call them type 1, 2, or 3s. Barricades, big barricades is what I don't have. I have all kind of cones. I have all the other equipment that will be coming in. So there'd be no expectation of staging the course and setting up the course boundaries in the Public Works Department.
Okay.
Alderman Hanson.
Could we get some information what this race is about, how it works, and
Certainly.
That's a very good question. You get to do a little PR here.
Okay. This actually, get my own crib notes out here. Excuse me.
That's why I took you off of the other list before.
Thank
So
you.
now you do get to talk, so.
All right, one of my favorite things. What we're trying to do is pair up with something I launched last summer, last Memorial Day weekend over in Cleveland, and I've always had a great affinity to the area because I have property in Elkhart Lake. Come here quite often, and I actually have been for 15 years putting on the Elkhart Lake Triathlon, which draws over 1,000 athletes and probably 2,000 people to the area just in that one day. So I've kind of been looking to bring more of that type of health and fitness activity to the area. And so last year, worked with the village of Cleveland, Wisconsin, on southern Manitowoc. We brought this bike race to Lakeshore Technical College. And there's a format where we could pair that up with a second race. And I thought it'd be great to bring it farther west here. And what the format is over the course of a period from 8:30 to like 3 o'clock, cyclists will race in heats. And basically, that's why Kylie Road would be closed. They race, it's about almost 7/10 of a mile loop, and they'll race that little S. So your best cyclist will race for 50 minutes or 55 minutes, and they literally are like little squirrels. They just keep going around in a circle, or guinea pigs, around a circle, and they'll get a bell lap. So the agenda is, less experienced riders like myself, maybe there's others in the audience, they will first maybe be the citizens or Cat 5s. They'll race for 35 minutes. There'll be a break, 5 minutes, then another heat will line up. Maybe it's the women Cat 5. And there's a schedule works its way like that throughout the day. Does that answer the question, sir? Thank you. The race is sanctioned with USA Cycling, which is the national governing body of cycling events in the United States. They're responsible to the U.S. Olympic Committee. Through that, we get liability insurance, and which the city is a certificate holder on the insurance certificate as well. So we provide all those things.
And this is age category from to?
Cycling deals more with categories of ability, but it typically will range from about 15 years, juniors, through to, we'll have fellows and ladies in their 60s riding, so in the
Okay.
masters divisions.
Excellent. Sounds exciting.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to, beginning discussion with the chamber. I know Mary Martin through a couple other things I've done in the area, so she's the one who introduced me to Mr. Yergis, actually, in my initial call.
Good. Thank you very much. Any other questions of Mr. Grady? Clerk will call the roll.
Thank you.
Williams,
Yes.
Riley,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Jarvis. Markham.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you for your enthusiasm, and we look forward to the event. Thank you. Moving back to the original item, next item is item number 6, public hearing. I declare a public hearing open, an ordinance amending the City of Plymouth Comprehensive Planned Land Use Map by changing property located at 1245 State Highway 67 from planned business to general industry. This is ordinance number 24, recommended by the Plan Commission on October 4th. Chair will recognize anyone who wants to talk on this particular subject, and maybe I would ask Administrator Yergis to give us a very brief summary.
All of you have seen these ordinances before. Really, it's related to the Masters Gallery project, so all of you should be familiar with that. Again, the first ordinance, number 24, deals with changing the land use from planned business to general industrial, and the real purpose is for that one parking lot area or staging area for the trucks, that land use matches in with the rest of the campus. And again, the zoning change also changes it from highway business B3 to light industry, and that will also match it in with the rest of the campus being a light industrial property. So both ordinances deal with that project and make it consistent with the rest of the project and the site.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on this item only, ordinance 24? I declare a public hearing closed. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the ordinance 24 as stated.
So moved, Alder Anderson.
Second, Elder Jarvis.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Markham.
Yes.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Riley.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. I declare a public hearing open, An ordinance amending section 13-1-22 zoning map of the city of the zoning code of the city of Plymouth, Wisconsin by changing property located at 1245 State Highway 67 from its present zoning classification of highway business B3 to light industry LI, ordinance number 25, recommended by the Plan Commission on October 4th. Again, our administrator commented on that on the last comment. Chair now recognizes anyone from the audience or the council that wishes to make a comment on the second public hearing. I declare a public hearing closed. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the ordinance number 25 as printed.
So moved, Alderman Riley.
Second, Alder Markham.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Williams.
Yes.
Riley.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Markham.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Moving on, item 7, resolution. Item A, a resolution by the Common Council adopting a redevelopment plan for 31 East Mill Street, designating redevelopment boundaries and declaring need for rehabilitation. Resolution number 30, recommended by Redevelopment Authority on December 6th. I'll ask Administrator Yurgis for a quick summary, and then the chair will recognize.
Sure, this is all related to 31 East Mill Street and the process for the redevelopment authority to purchase it from the Plymouth Industrial Development Corporation. The first step is to pass the resolution designating the property basically as a blighted property and in need of redevelopment. That's on the agenda tonight, and then also later in the meeting, there's actual approval to purchase the property, which the RDA has also recommended. You may recall that at a previous meeting, the Common Council set money aside for this project, and we're trying to get this done before the end of the year so that it can be transferred to the ownership of the redevelopment authority, and then have it tax exempt as of January 1 next year.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Alderperson Jarvis and then Alderman Williams.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I think that this is a good first step for this particular property. It fits with the intent and the purpose of the redevelopment authority to work and strive to rehabilitate some of the buildings that are not in good shape in our downtown. And with that,
Is that a recommendation to adopt?
yes, I would like to add a recommendation to adopt. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And the chair recognizes Alderman Williams.
Well, I would like to second that. I assume that's a motion.
Yes.
I would like to second that motion regarding the property at 31st East Mill Street.
Thank you. We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Markham.
Yes.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Riley.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Moving on, Resolution 7B, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Plymouth, Wisconsin, establishing the 2013 compensation for non-union employees, Resolution number 31, recommended by the Finance and Personnel Committee on November 27th. I'll ask Administrator Yurgis to give us a brief summary, and then the chair will recognize the motion.
Resolution number 31 of 2012 is the non-union 2013 compensation. Obviously, we're under a 2-year wage freeze, so you don't really see too many changes. There is one change related to the DPW assistant on page 2 that I'd call out to, and there is a footnote. Obviously, we're looking to provide or ask her to pick up some additional duties and special projects. and potentially in the future reclassifying the position to a management assistant to provide assistance to more than one department, and the position is limited to no more than 28 hours in the year 2013. In the past, that position was funded for public works purposes in the low 20s. In terms of total hours a week, that was decreased a few years back to about 12 hours a week, and we are increasing it again to 28, and obviously you can see the increase related to that position. Other things I want to point out is underneath 3C, just a note that instead of requiring carryover to come to the council, that's something that the city administrator can handle with a maximum of 80 hours of leave that may be carried over, not to exceed that amount. On page, or the IRS on 3F was added in there that IRS mileage reimbursement will be paid for those employees that use their private vehicles. On the following page, underneath introductory period, basically the introductory period is to change it to 180 days with benefits beginning after 90. That makes it consistent with some of our other labor agreements that we have. Let's see here, I guess that's not really numbered, but under E, Appendix E, again, it references the vacation. And then on Appendix F, underneath insurance, obviously I'm anticipating that the Common Council is going to be discussing our health insurance plan. And so you can see the language that is struck there. And I'm anticipating that the council will want to make some changes to that plan for the year 2014. And so just to clarify that that language would be struck from this resolution.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Alderman Markham for a motion and Alderman Williams.
I make a motion to approve resolution number 31 as stated.
Second.
We have a first and a second to approve resolution 31 as printed. Discussion. Alderman Fowler.
Well, in my opinion, the DPW assistant increase violates our hiring freeze and our wage freeze. Therefore, I can't support it.
Any other comments? Bill?
Yeah, I don't have a copy of it, I'm sorry, but under the part-time street employee, I'm asking you to raise the top end of that simply because if I want to hire somebody part-time to plow snow, with the retirement of Bob, we don't plan on replacing him, I'll say right away, if ever, and that will leave us one person short, and we'll have a truck sitting in the garage. And I'm hoping that I could hopefully find somebody to pick that up, and the high end of that, I think, is $12, if you look at that.
$12.46.
Yeah, which is way low for a truck driver. So I'm asking you if you'd raise that to, say, $16.50. Does that seem reasonable? Seems reasonable to me to find a truck driver to do that. And this would be just somebody who would come in, you know, we're talking 10 times a year at night for, 6-7 hours a night. It's not a it's a very part-time kind of position. So if you can
And
just
the
raise that end of the scale, if we use it, we use it. If we don't, we don't, but at least we'd have that flexibility.
And the requirement would still be a CDL.
Yeah, they have to, but, well, depends what they're driving. I have one truck, I have a plow truck, they don't need a CDL. I've got some Jeeps and pickup trucks, you don't need a CDL, so I can
You can work
move
around
people
that.
around if I have to. I can be
Okay.
creative, so,
Okay.
thank you.
No, it's not. At the time, there wasn't discussion about changing the high end. The one thing that Bill didn't get into is that, Bob is retiring, and actually the library custodian, who also did snow plowing along with Bob, is being moved over back to DPW. And there's a change at the library, and so technically, from a snow plowing perspective, we'll be short one person that normally participates in the snow plowing activities. And so, after that change, or actually, I think this resolution was discussed before then, or during that process, and, Bill brought up, if we need a CDL driver, can we find someone for $12.46? I don't know.
Before we go any further, thank you. You saw my thinking pattern. First and second agree with the change in the part-time not to exceed $16.50? Yes. Okay, thank you, just for the record. Continuing discussion then? Clerk will call the roll.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Markham.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Riley.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Item C, a resolution in support of preservation of tax exempt financing. I would ask Clerk Huberty to read the resolution number 32, please.
Okay. Whereas municipal bonds are the means by which state and local governments finance the critical infrastructure of our nation, including roads, bridges, hospitals, schools, and utility systems. And whereas under current law, the owners of municipal bonds are not required to pay federal income tax on the interest income they receive from the bonds. And whereas this tax exemption is part of a more than century-long system of reciprocal immunity under which owners of federal bonds are, in turn, not required to pay state and local income tax on the interest they receive from federal bonds. And whereas this federal tax exemption provides a significant difference between public sector and private sector debt financing, and whereas municipalities benefit from this tax exemption through substantial savings on the interest cost of borrowed money, and whereas the benefit of lower capital costs attributable to tax-exempt financing are passed on to property taxpayers through reduced rates, greater local investments, or both, and whereas from time to time Congress and the President have proposed legislation to tax or alter the federal tax exemption of interest on municipal bonds, now therefore be it resolved that the City of Plymouth, County of Sheboygan, State of Wisconsin opposes any efforts by Congress and this or any future president to eliminate or limit the federal tax exemption on interest earned from municipal bonds. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution shall be sent to our congressional representatives and key members of the administration. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution shall be submitted to the Municipal Electric Utility of Wisconsin in support of future debate and action on preserving tax-exempt financing.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the resolution as read.
So, second, Alder Anderson.
We have a first and a second. Any comments? I would like to make one, I'm very passionate about this. This is something that's been coming up repeatedly in recent years, and I believe this goes all the way back to the founding of our nation itself, where the federal government kept their hands off of the state. And I think that this is founded in our principles of the nation, and the federal government can go find some money someplace else and leave the state alone. This is our only instrument that we have to give ourselves at any advantage whatsoever in our budgeting process, and to forego that to the federal government would be a crime. Thank you. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 8 is the consent agenda. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So move, Alder Hanson.
Second, Alder Riley.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Markham.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Riley.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Jarvis. Sedlacek.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Item 9 tonight is the item removed from the consent agenda. Item 8B, approve request from the Plymouth Fire Department to hold their annual Christmas party on Monday, December 17th, 2012, from 6 p.m. to 12 midnight, and their annual banquet on Saturday, January 26, 2013, from 6 p.m. until 12 midnight at the City of Plymouth Fire Station.
Alder Hanson?
Do we want to add training room to that, Chief? I mean, because it's in the lower level. Okay.
So move Alder Hanson on
We have a first. Do we have a second?
Second, Alder Williams.
We have a first and a second. Discussion. Alderman Fowler?
Well, I guess my question is, these are 6-hour periods. Is there alcohol going to be served at these parties? So,
From 6 till 9, there's drill. And then we have lunch, and then the guys hang around and play cards and have a couple drinks.
so there's not alcohol served for 6 hours straight?
No, God, no.
I was gonna say, I've been to a lot of Christmas parties, and by midnight, I'd be pretty well bailed. Okay, that's all I really want to know.
Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Moving on, item 10, Public Works and Utility Committee. Chairperson Jarvis, we had our meeting tonight. Discussion and approval of shared savings loan policy. I'll ask Chairperson Jarvis and Administrator Yurgis to maybe give us a quick summary between the two, and then the chair will entertain a motion. Chairperson
Yeah,
Jarvis?
thank you, Mayor. A couple of meetings ago, maybe a couple months ago, it came to our attention at the Public Works and Utility Committee meeting, as well as the Common Council, that WPPI would no longer be underwriting the requests for loans that were under $25,000. And the city has some responsibility if those loans would default. However, there has not been any instances of default with this program. It's a very successful program. However, we, in the committee, suggested that there be some due diligence for those loan applications that the city would have to back. And we can't, Frank Barth came and provided us a 2-page document that you received in your packet. And in there, it provides a policy. There were a couple of changes, a couple of typos, but if you go to the second page, it's technically the third page. If you see something numbered section 4 towards the bottom called Shared Savings Program Credit Review Information, that actually should be a 5. So that'll be one of the small typos, and there were a couple of additions above that Administrator Yurgis can go over some of those changes. But the one substantive thing is in section 5, under A. There's a loan applications less than $25,000. The small I is utility payment history. 2I is most recent 2 years tax returns. And then in the committee, we recommended to the council that a 3I be included, that a credit score would be an optional item to be looked at if the utility payment history was not significant, i.e. if it was, something like only a year's worth of utility payments where there's no historical precedence in what their history in paying is. So I think that summarizes what the committee looked at and what they're suggesting tonight. Administrator Yurgis?
Just a note that underneath C, underneath section 4, C2A, that really WPPI Energy will review the application and provide a financial summary for review by the Public Works and Utilities Committee. WPPI Energy does not make a recommendation. That's purely at the discretion of the city. And so for that reason, that's why we were saying that it should come to a committee, such as the Public Works and Utilities Committee, to review and comment on prior to it coming to council. And then the only other comment I have is just to note that the motion should note that the shared savings loan policy would be incorporated into the city's existing financial policies.
Thank you. With that, the chair will recognize Chairperson Jarvis to make the motion.
I make a motion that the council approve the shared savings loan policy with the typo and correction for section 5, that 2A be changed from the draft document you received in your packet, and then the addition of the section 5A 3I, and that this also be incorporated into the city's economic development, financial policy.
Second, Alder Hanson.
I'll wait 5 seconds for Clerk Huberty to write all.
Okay.
You got that? Very good, all right. We have a first and a second, any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Sedlacek.
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
Jarvis,
Yes.
Riley.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Moving on, item 11, revolving loan committee, Chairperson Mayor Pullman, meeting of December 10th, 2012. I would ask Administrator Yurgis to give us a brief summary. We have in the House tonight Mel Blanke to further develop the conversation, and then the chair will entertain a motion.
I guess I think I'll just let Mel Blanke start. And then I just want to point out that all of you should have received the meeting minutes, correct? Did that
Yes.
get out to everybody?
Yes, it was on.
It should have
today
been
when you-
in-
Tonight when you came up.
on-
it should have
That
been.
was laying on the table.
And I guess I would just point out that the actual motion there is in bold, and I'll just read the motion quick. Motion by Blanke, second by Anderson, to recommend to council to approve additional financing in the amount of $160,000, not to exceed a total RLF loan of $297,000. I'll just explain that they have an existing loan of $137,000, so that's how we get to $297,000. Consolidated loan at 3% for 5 years, and then increasing 1% every year thereafter, with a 20-year amortization, 10-year balloon payment. Subordinate not to exceed $848,000 of other debt, basically. Contingent on a loan closing and disbursement by November 15th, 2013, with no prepayment fees or penalties related to the outstanding debt issued by Mr. Stanton. That's a mouthful, but I'll let Mel explain a little bit more. But basically, there is a private individual that has provided some funding to this property and this business, and looking to get out of that financial arrangement, which aren't necessarily the best terms for the business. So with that, I'll let Mel jump in and provide a summary.
I was hoping you'd elaborate further. This is something that really came up just within the last week, and we had the meeting. As you know, the state is in the process of regionalizing the revolving loan funds, and has been made public, and again, the banker and Sean and others had been aware of this, and felt they had to move quickly. To give you a separate aside, there was a regional meeting today, and we hadn't heard of any steps they were taking to move that along. We thought we might actually be able to push it back further. However, they had sent out emails in November, which their emails apparently got tied up in IT spam filters, and they sent things out, not to me, but sent them to some staff members, which got filtered out at the county level and appears at the city level as well. So they are planning on moving ahead as quickly as we originally thought. So I only say that because we were thinking, no big deal, they haven't done anything for the last month or two. They have. I've talked with them a lot today about that they should send things in mail or send to be sure we get it, but that's a separate issue. And we'll work that one out. But it just means they are moving along. What happened here is, as Brian mentioned, as you know, Antoinette's has been in existence, it's done well. It's the wedding center and for events in Plymouth. It's financed by a private individual. We did put a loan in 2009 when they extended into what was the western part of Cornell's. I mean, I think of it as still as a car dealership, but when they expanded that way, we helped finance that, and so did the bank. And that was behind, our position was behind the bank and behind Mr. Stanton, who had financed the purchase, and you purchased it in 2008, I think a year before that. And because it was doing okay, he expanded, and we agreed to it. And he's made all payments on all the loans. He currently has a loan of Mr. Stanton for about $800,000. There's two actually loans, but they total approximately that, a little over. And the interest rate is 8%. In today's economy, that's a lot on that amount of money. And with what they saw in the paper about the loan fund, they'd come before us to say, hey, you know, this is really tough for us right now. Mr. Stanton has looked at the tax situation and tax law changes and talked to them about accepting prepayment now if he was paid before the end of the year. As you may know, presently capital gains tax rate is 15%. It goes up after the first of the year. At the same time, his loan actually goes until November of 2013.
That's the first point where he can refinance the $800,000 with no penalty.
Until then, Sean can't do that. What's interesting about all this, and one of the, I don't know if the condition was in what you read, but.
It is.
Okay, but he was basically saying, well,
Sort of.
I'll accept prepayment now if you also pay the interest till November 13th. If that sounds as stupid to you as it does to me, you can understand where we said, huh? And this all just was yesterday, so we haven't had time to go over it that much. But the bottom line is the committee response was, that doesn't make sense to us or Sean. If he wants to get paid by the end of the year, we'd be willing to work with the bank on doing that to help him get to a reasonable rate and continue the jobs and the facility for Plymouth. But we aren't going to just have somebody write him a check for interest till November when he's paid off this year. So that's why it's worded as it is, that we would do it. If he's going to take that position, our position would be fine. We aren't going to have Sean pay interest on both sets of loans till November. We'll say we'll pay it off when it comes due in November, when it can be paid with no prepayment. If he wants to take advantage of the capital gains tax break, that's fine. We'll finance it now, but not if he's going to get that extra interest. So this is really a strange one in that standpoint, and that it came up in this sort of context. So the other thing that makes this even stranger, as if this isn't enough, is that we don't have any money in the fund now. And most of you may not have been on the council back in the 90s when we actually had many times where we were approving loans and we didn't have the money in the fund immediately, but we had it coming in the next 6 months or a year, and we paid it out. And the bank would advance the money, and we simply agreed when our money came in from payments, we would use it to pay off that loan, and we refer to it as a bridge loan. And so this would be doing that in this case, because right now with our loan commitments, we really will be, and the things we've done with Willow Road and the railroad, our cash amount will be gone as of the end of the year. So that this wouldn't actually be funded until sometime during the year anyway. The bank would have to front the money, which is okay if it is until November. And if it is, if they do it now, that's fine too. The bank has agreed to do, is taking it to their committee to do. With the timing, and this being the only meeting the council had before the end of the year, and in negotiation with Mr. Stanton, basically what Brian read is what we were proposing. We would approve it. And again, this is one, we only got the documents just recently as well, but this is one where payments have been made. They would continue to be made. He's been current on the payments. It has been a successful business, but at 8% interest in today's economy, it's not particularly profitable, but it's been successful and a good facility for Plymouth residents. So that was where the committee came after a long discussion and review of tax returns for 3 years and long discussion with Todd Niles from the bank concerning their ability to step in. And they were concerned that we wouldn't have any money to do this after the first of the year, and that this opportunity with Mr. Stanton ended because of the tax laws, is sort of why it came about. And this one is sudden to you, it was sudden to us, but we understood the reason why it came up and recommended it because of that. Mr. Sean is here today if you have questions. Brian and the mayor and John were there to hear what was discussed. And I expect you may have questions because this one is not, we haven't had usual ones recently anyway, but this one clearly isn't one of our normal opportunities. So it'd be a loan that could either be granted between now and November. If it was granted now, we wouldn't actually be able to fund it. It would be on what we call the bridge loan basis. We would pay out the bank as the funds became available, and we wouldn't assume any responsibility if we didn't have funds coming in. The city doesn't have to worry about having to come up with the money out of its own pocket. In a sense, it's only from the payments that come in under the loan program that it would be funded.
Correct. Thank you, Mel. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the wording as Brian had indicated on the sheet that he passed out, that we would want the motion to mirror that exact bold print as Brian indicated. So the chair will entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved, Alder Anderson.
Second, Alder Hanson.
We have a first and a second discussion. Alderperson Jarvis.
I have a question related to the Post Bridge, the money that's coming back in from the RLF. How do we know that that doesn't have to go to the regional entity?
Well, two things about that. One is the loan would be basically approved, at this point in time. But the funds that are coming in, I think we would be designating for this loan purpose. The manual, which is still gonna be negotiated, there is a draft of the manual out there. I anticipate taking at least through the first quarter of next year, if not at least.
Third quarter
Okay,
is
third
more
quarter.
likely.
Okay. So the third
Minimum.
quarter, before the regional RLF manual is gonna be agreed upon. That's a guess. So that'll be
The
approved.
next meeting on it is in February, when the second draft is going to be reviewed. Today, the first draft was discussed, and I and others, especially from Manitowoc County and Sheboygan County, had a lot of concerns about things and
So-
significant
so there
changes
has
in
to
our
be
discussion.
A manual agreed upon and entered into. After the manual is created
Then a
upon the parties.
contract with the state concerning the regional, it's going to be a while.
Yeah, so then there's gotta be a contract between the regional, and then also the municipalities have to agree or vote to be part of the regional fund. That's another part of it.
When
and
that's
then-
all done, it comes back to you for a
And then the
vote.
last part, which I think it may take, well, I think will take beyond next year, is the fact that each mortgage has to get reassigned to the new regional entity. So the last mortgage that would probably get reassigned is probably, from the city, is probably this one. And, you know, each mortgage would have to come in front of the council, and they'd have to approve reassigning those mortgages. So it's not gonna be quickly, so it's gonna be some time before that's done, but.
Other questions? Alderman Fowler.
What are the current receipts from the RLF on a monthly basis, and how stable are they?
Approximately 12,000 from what was indicated by,
I think the average was maybe over the last 11 months was maybe 15, but then the last couple of months has been about 12.
and
or so.
it'll be another 1,500 or something relating to the Panko one that doesn't start till January. So it'll be in the 12,000. It's roughly going to take most of the year to fund it.
So it would probably be unlikely, we talked about this at the committee, that we will accept applications, but after this one, they'll kind of be on file, and we probably won't be reviewing a lot of applications until monies are available.
And for the council's information, for those who weren't around then, back when we did this, because back then rates were higher and people were really interested in it, we did discuss a policy about making sure we didn't advance money more than a year ahead of what we had money coming in. It's one thing to have a bridge loan, but we didn't want to have the city, the council, or the committee involved in ones where we were concerned if something was approved and it wasn't funded for 3 years, that they could be out of business and we could be paying off a bank with money that was down the tubes in a sense. So we do want to have a limit to that. And that's why if this were approved, we wouldn't be approving any others immediately.
Any other questions? Clerk will call the roll.
Riley,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Jarvis. Markham,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Sedlacek,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Lot of effort went into that on committee. Mel and Sean, we appreciate your patience and working with the bank. Certainly Todd has been very cooperative and helpful too, and that's what it takes to put a package together, and the fact that we have a facility like that in town, I think speaks well of itself as well, so thank you. Moving on, item 12, discussion and possible approval of Glacier Transit and Storage Incorporated, GTS Solutions LLC, development agreement in regards to the USDA Rural Development Loan Agreement. This was postponed from the November 27th council meeting, and at this point, I think I'll ask Attorney Feber and Administrator Yurgis to take turns walking us through some of these documents and stipulating that we do have a complete file on hand in the clerk's office. We didn't bother to print the whole tree for everybody, because quite honestly, it's a pretty thick pile, but you have the essentials with that. So with that, Attorney Feber?
All right, thank you, Mayor. Tonight in your packets, you do have the TID 4 development agreement, and that relates to the Glacier Transit and Storage, Inc., GTS Solutions LLC development in TID 4 of an approximately 85,000 square foot cold storage facility out on Willow Road. And pursuant to the development agreement on page 5, the city is agreeing to receive from USDA Rural Development and loan to the developer, so to the LLC, funds in the amount of $500,000 pursuant to the terms and conditions of the loan agreement, which is attached to the development agreement. Now, I know that the council doesn't have everything, the whole 64 pages in their packet tonight, so I'll quickly walk through with you what the loan agreement says. And as you probably recall, the city did apply to rural development for this loan. It was approved. So there is a loan agreement between the city and USDA. There is a promissory note in favor of the USDA. And what's unique about this is that the city is actually obligated to repay it. So the city has independent obligations to USDA, and then GTS has obligations to the city. As far as the loan agreement goes, it's really modeled after the obligations that USDA is imposing on the city. And the payments are the same on the promissory note. Whatever the city has to pay to USDA, we're asking Glacier to pay to the city. And as far as security, there is a mortgage on the property. The city will hold a shared third position with the Plymouth Industrial Development Corporation. And I anticipate getting that. I see Mel has left now, but that's the only document that isn't part of this development agreement that will be part of this entire project. So there will be a mortgage, a shared third position with the PIDC. There is also going to be a corporate guarantee of payment that Glacier Transit and Storage, Inc. will execute. So the corporation is guaranteeing the payment of the LLC. There will also be personal guarantees of the 4 members of the LLC who are part of the Gelzer family and involved with Glacier Transit and Storage, Inc. as well. So those are the basic terms of the loan agreement. And then there's many, many exhibits to that loan agreement, incorporating all the application materials and all the other obligations that USDA is putting on the city as far as the loan terms. The city is in turn putting that on Glacier and expecting Glacier to comply with all of those provisions as well. So if the development agreement is acceptable to the city, what I would be looking for tonight is approval of the development agreement and authorization for the mayor and clerk to execute all documents in a form acceptable to the city administrator and the city attorney that would be necessary to affect the terms of the development agreement. Because there are all these other exhibits and other pieces of it that I realize you don't have before you. And certainly if there's any questions, I would be happy to entertain those, or maybe the city administrator has something to add.
The only, there will be a subordination agreement with the PIDC, and then there's also going to be a letter of credit that we will have with Community Bank and Trust, and the cost of that letter of credit will be paid by GTS as part of the development agreement. So that's something we'll also be entering into. Otherwise, I have no other comments.
The chair will entertain a motion to approve the TID 4 development agreement with Glacier Transit and Storage Incorporated / GTS Solutions LLC development agreement regarding the USDA rural development loan.
So moved, Alder Anderson.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Discussion. Clerk will call the roll.
Mayor, and I just want to stipulate in the motion that what Attorney Feber had
Yes.
asked
Yes.
for that
Clerk and-
the clerk and the mayor and the clerk be authorized to execute
First and second,
all the necessary
add,
documents.
yes, that's, thank you, that's correct.
Hanson,
Yes.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Sedlacek,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Riley,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Moving on, item B, approved 2012-13 beverage operator license as indicated. This was postponed from the November 27th council meeting. And Chief, do we have an update on that application?
Yes, we received some information from the city attorney and the police department's recommendation that the council not approve the bartender's license for this campground. I believe you have documentation from the city attorney's office and also a memo that I sent along with your packet.
Okay, thank you. At this point, the chair will entertain a motion. Alderman Hanson.
I move that we do not approve the bartender license for Ms. Cantrell.
Second, Williams.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? All approve, say aye.
Aye.
That should be all approve of denying it, say aye.
I got it.
We know what that was. All noes, the motion is approved.
If I may, pursuant to your ordinance, the clerk does need to notify the applicant the reasons for the denial. And you may just want to make sure that she is aware of the reasons the council is basing the denial. Is that on the chief's recommendation based on?
I think if we take
on
the chief's
criminal conviction?
recommendation, should be adequate for that
I guess
purpose.
I would look at, the council would like to look at page 7-53 under ordinance section 7-2-34, sub 1D would apply. And also under the paragraph sub D. I can work with the clerk's office.
Okay, coordinate that. Thank you. Thank you, Attorney Fever. Item 13, new business, discussion and approval of purchase of 31 East Mill Street by the Redevelopment Authority of the City of Plymouth, Wisconsin, for the amount of $14,651.23. This is recommended by the RDA on December 6th. Administrator Yurgis commented earlier. You want to summarize again for us on that?
Council already transferred those funds to the RDA in that amount to cover the purchase. We had the earlier resolution that's required for the redevelopment plan and identifying the property as blighted. Although pursuant to the bylaws, any purchase of property still has to come in front of the Common Council for approval. And so that's why there's an additional approval, just to be clear that we followed all the steps and that the Common Council has followed through with how the bylaws are set up.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the purchase of 31 East Mill Street in the amount of $14,651.23.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Anderson?
Yes.
Riley?
Yes.
Markham?
Yes.
Jarvis?
Yes.
Fowler?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Sedlacek?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Item B, approval for a city administrator to request the release of funds from USARD related to the,
Yeah,
should
that's
be
a
a
typo.
D.
It
That-
should USDARD.
correct, related to the GTS project fund, project loan.
Yeah, this is just a requirement that they needed in a, it's not, I asked, it's not a formal resolution, but they need it in the meeting minutes, that basically staff is authorized to request the release of funds. And just to note that, that should be contingent on all executed agreements. And we'll have this in the meeting minutes and we can furnish them a record of that.
Chair will entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved, Alder Anderson.
Second, Alder Jarvis.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Williams?
Yes.
Riley?
Yes.
Fowler?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
Jarvis?
Yes.
Sedlacek?
Yes.
Markham?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. 13, item C, discussion and approval of extraterritorial certified survey map as indicated, recommended by the Plan Commission on December 6th. Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved, Alderman Riley.
Second, Alderman Hanson.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.85 paren 1 paren G.
So move, Alderman Hanson.
Second, Alderman Riley.
We have a